to exist in a state of happiness would be better than to live in pursuit of happiness.
It seems like such a good idea, doesn't it, that everything should get better and better. But that bubble has grown bigger and bigger in the West, and I would argue that it is already starting to implode again.
Hello and welcome to the Cottages.
A channel about traditional cottage life.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Lydia. This year we quit our jobs and spent all our savings on a rundown stone cottage in Wales.
I've brought Lydia out here to Spain to visit relatives for Christmas, but today, for a very special treat, I'm going to take her to see one of my favourite abandoned cottages.
I'd like to find somewhere peaceful for us to sit and talk about our hopes and dreams for the cottager lifestyle. I think people are looking for a sense of peace and a bit of an escape from the complexities of living in a town with, a mortgage and a lot of bills and the kind of demands that require you to keep on living and working in a particular way.
Into the loan department of the bank. He is well known to the officials of the bank as an honest, conscientious, capable businessman.
I think a lot of people are looking for a sense of freedom. It's quite scary, it's quite a risk, particularly if you move somewhere like this. It's a foreign country, it's a different language, it's a long way away from people you might know or a supportive community.
Yeah, there are certain political changes in the last few years that have made that slightly harder, aren't there?
She had a secret vigour. London.
Well, if you're British, it's now much harder to go to Europe because of Brexit.
Yeah.
But of course, there's plenty of other people who are not British.
It's quite cheap to do something like this. I mean, I don't know exactly how much this Finca would be because I've never talked to the owner, but I've been coming here for the last 20 years and it's still empty. To me, it's just a beautiful little spot that I come and sit and meditate and enjoy the view.
Life might be different now for new young cottagers pioneering the old way of life. But what can we learn from how people did used to live?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that life was more seasonal. I think that life was more built around like the observance of the hours of the day. People didn't stay up late because the candles are expensive.
But they did get up at the crack of dawn.
They did, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pointed comment. The rhythm of the day, the rhythm of the year and the seasons, the calendar of religious observance, in particular in Catholic Spain. There would have been feast days, and those are excuses effectively to get people around, get people together, get people sharing. I really like that. I'd love to do more of that. Michaelmas for the win, that's what I'd say.
When you eat the same thing over and over every day, then holidays have a very special significance.
That's a way of managing austerity. It's a way of coping with that mentally. So you prepare by having these feast days where you eat something special. And I think that we probably, and I'm much more guilty of this than Lydia is. I expect a higher quality of fare. I'm spoiled.
I think changing our expectations is really key. we're going to live simply, we need to acknowledge what living simply is.
Yeah.
And it means less variety in a great deal of the things that we do have. It means having less stuff in general and the conveniences that comes with having lots of stuff. On the other hand, it provides a far greater variety in terms of task, because I think we'll turn our hand to all sorts of different jobs, making things, fixing things, and that will actually give a great deal of variety to life. Learning to be content with less is something that I would like to keep on striving for.
But if you have less variety in your life and less actual distraction from the outside world, in theory, you should have more time for, for art or for spiritual contemplation, or for just literally observing nature. A place like this is so abundantly beautiful that there's always going to be something new on the horizon, a change in the foliage or in the weather. That means that there's something to contemplate each day, and new ideas to percolate in your mind.
If we were able to live the life that the cottagers lived in our cottage back in the 1850s, well, that would be an interesting historical experiment, but it's not necessarily better or more morally correct in some way. I think it's more about trying to work out why we're making the change, and then seeing what obstacles are actually in the way of that.
Yeah, but blind Ludditism is not the answer, is it?
No.
It's because there are immense benefits to technology. We use YouTube ourselves to look up how to do things.
I think, as well as trying to seek peace in a place like this, there are plenty of other people who are motivated, like I am, to reduce our carbon footprint and to live less in a less damaging lifestyle.
Part of what we're going through is a journey of removing things from our life and then working out what's essential and what isn't. Because one of the things that I've been staggered that we don't seem to miss much is the fridge. I thought that would be a no-brainer, but actually the fridge turns out to be not that useful, and we don't waste much food. So
it's been interesting that we seem to waste less food now that we don't have a fridge.
Yeah.
I think this is because we're a lot more careful and conscious of what food we've got that has a limited lifespan, and we tend to put that in the coolest part of the house and just eat it the next day.
So I now look at the fridge as a food waste machine that just sits there drinking electricity for most of the day.
I remember hearing one stat which I found really surprising, that since the washing machine has been invented, women are still spending, on average, the same amount of time each week doing their laundry. And for me, I just found this impossible to believe.
This is Tim Harford again.
This is Tim Harford. Thank you, Tim. And his reasoning for it was that since the advent of the washing machine, we simply wash our clothes more often because we can, because it's there. And so a great many households will now run their washing machine every day, where before they might have just done one weekly wash by hand.
So you started by asking what we could learn from people who lived here long ago, or the cottagers of old.
I think in a more modern lifestyle where we are bombarded with a constant change of input, so whether you're scrolling on your phone or adverts on the television, or just in the school day, the tasks constantly changing, breaking things up, we've reduced our attention span down, and it makes it so much harder to persevere with a long job, which just requires hard work over a significant amount of time. So I think the thought of getting up before dawn and working on practical tasks all day until you go to bed is something which has become normal to only a fairly small proportion of our society, mostly agricultural workers.
Yeah.
So I hope that the lifestyle we've chosen will help us to rebuild some of that resilience. It will obviously be difficult to do, but to keep on persevering and working hard and changing our expectations, and rather seeing the whole day or the whole of our lives as just the opportunity to live it rather than separating it into work and leisure.
I might blame the US Constitution here.
You can try.
Life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And actually the phrase the pursuit of happiness implies that there is a state of happiness that everyone should pursue through labour. That framing of a state of happiness that is aspirational is quite interesting because it negates the possibility that you can be happy without achieving something. So to exist in a state of happiness would be better than to live in pursuit of happiness.
Our sense of contentment, being content with the simple things that we do already have, rather than constantly trying to progress. I think I would put progression down as one of those challenging ideals. It seems like such a good idea, doesn't it, that everything should get better and better. But that bubble has grown bigger and bigger in the West, and I would argue that it is already starting to implode again.
And this is something I've struggled with, with depression for a long time. But to me, the idea of resilience is the idea that you can work your way into a state of mind where you can have a day and still be happy, because the happiness is internalized.
Well, I think there's definitely a spiritual aspect to that in terms of where our joy comes from, where our identity lies, who we are and who can define who we are or what value we have, and whether our value lies in what we achieve in life, or whether there's a more intrinsic value to us as created beings who are loved and cared for.
Yeah. Whereas you could be hanging the laundry or digging the garden, and as long as you had sight of the lavender, happiness is attainable in any moment in theory. But that is the goal, and a place like this, somewhere simple, allows you to create that spiritual space or that mental space to be able to focus on the best aspects of your personality and then to export that to your interactions with the wider world. But I think that in the chaos of life, we find it difficult to actually maintain or to even think about those aspects of our personality, our behaviour and our attitudes.
So there's so much more, isn't there, than just changing your physical surroundings.
Yeah.
Whether it's running away from the village to the big dream of the city, or whether it's running away from the city to the big dream of a simple life in the countryside. So much actually is on our internal life, our sense of who we are and security in that, in our relationships with other people. And those things can be found anywhere in the world, and they can also be elusive in any lifestyle. It's beautiful.
It's just stunning. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. It's been a bit self-indulgent. Forgive me, it's my birthday tomorrow. I really wanted to do something special. Having a conversation like this has been a bit of an aspiration of mine for a while for the channel, because to me this is what the channel's about. It's not just about restoring a house, it's about an entire way of life and historic modes of thought and life. And I think that's important to both of us, really.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to share ideas, and we'd love to hear your ideas, your comments. in the comments of the YouTube channel, or to share this video and get other people talking as well.
Yeah. And if there are any topics of discussion that you'd love us to pick up and react to, that would be wonderful as well. But for the moment, from sunny Spain, thank you so much for watching, and take care.
Bye.